السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا المصطفى صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين. وقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى: وإنك لعلى خلق عظيم. صدق الله العظيم. Ulama Kiram, most respected brothers and also our sisters who listen over receivers. We continue in this month of Rabiul Awwal with some discussion of the life of Rasoolullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, I have mentioned many times that the entire deen and entire Islam is a discussion of the life of Rasoolullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is no deen, there is no Islam without a discussion of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam's practices, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam's actions. If you take the teachings of Islam, what else is the teaching of Islam except what Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam taught? So every discussion regarding deen is a discussion of the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whether it is our business transactions, whether it is our marriages, our walimas, whether it deals with our social life, economic life, political life, cultural and domestic life, any angle that you look at a person's life, if you have to discuss Islam and Islamic teachings, then it is a discussion of the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because he has given us direction how to marry. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam has given us direction how to conduct our businesses. He has given us direction in every aspect of our life. So we should not think that there must be a special occasion just to speak on the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then that is discussion of his life. Throughout the year, whatever ayat of the Quran Sharif and whatever the meanings of the ayat and the verses of the Quran Sharif are given, they are nothing but what Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam has mentioned. Nevertheless, there are certain specific aspects of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam's life which has got a great lesson for all of us. Many times these things are discussed, and by repetition it refreshes our iman, it strengthens our faith, it brings us closer to Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it creates more love for Allah and His Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam in our hearts. So if you have to look at Rasul Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Hazrat Aisha Siddiqa radiyallahu ta'ala anha, when she was asked that what is the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so she said, don't you read the Quran Sharif? So kana khuluquhu al-Quran. Whatever you find in the Quran Sharif, you will find in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you want to see what the teachings of the Quran Sharif are, then you must read the Quran, then you must read the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you want to know what is in the Quran Sharif, then you must read the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You will find it in his life. The yaqeen of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, the taqwa of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, the tawakkul and trust in Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Anything and everything which the Quran Sharif teaches, that these are the sifat and the attributes of a true mu'min, then you will find them in perfect degree in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Perfect. He was the most perfect human being. You won't find any deficiency, any weakness in any aspect of his life. The world has seen many rulers, they have seen many generals, they have seen many fathers, they have seen many husbands, they have seen many judges, they have seen many commanders, they have seen many kings, they have seen different kinds of people in this world who have attained some kind of recognition in a certain field. but you will find plenty of deficiency in other aspects of their lives. They may be good in one department, but in other aspects of their life you will find so much of weakness, and especially when it comes to the moral life. If you have to look at the moral life of those who have become recognized in this world as being Mr. Somebody's, then you will see nothing but deficiencies and weaknesses. In which area can you say that this person is a perfect human being? And what real lessons have they left behind for us? Yes, the Allah, those whom Allah wa ta'ala has given a true love of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then in their lives you will find emulation of the practices of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And because of that emulation of the practices of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, because of the following of the lifestyle of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, Allah wa ta'ala makes them living till the day of Qiyamah. People will read about them, they will learn about them, and they will discuss their lives, and they will say that look at this Allah, that he was following exactly what Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam's teachings were. So through him, the person will be reminded of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam's lifestyle. But I'm talking about the secular lives. So Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam was the perfect human being, and you will find everything in perfection in Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam's life. But one area where the person's real mettle is shown, that what kind of a person he is when it comes to his forgiveness. After some harm has been caused to him, when some harm has been done, when some injustice has been done, the person has been persecuted, he has been tortured, the person has been jailed and imprisoned. But when he is asked for forgiveness, then at that time we will see the true mettle of that person. So Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, in his life, this is something that's very, very conspicuous. You pick up all the history books and you will find nothing in there except forgiveness. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he never ever took revenge on his own behalf. If anybody troubled him, there was no question of revenge. Although Shariat allows you that if a person gives you one slap, you can give him one slap in return. But you should not exceed the strength of that slap. Because if you are going to exceed the limit, then now you will become zalim. So therefore it's better to forgive. But if a person has been harmed, he is allowed to seek revenge up to that extent. But Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam was setting the example for the entire mankind. Therefore you will find in his life nothing but forgiveness. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam in Taif, who does not know what happened? He was stoned, he was jeered, he was laughed at, he was mocked and ridiculed. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam's shoes Mubarak becomes filled with his Mubarak blood. Imagine Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he is being stoned in Taif. The angels come and tell him that these mountains here, Allah Ta'ala has sent us, if you want we can crush these people between the mountains. So Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, what did he do? He said, no, if they don't accept Islam, probably in their progeny somebody will accept Islam. But I don't want them to be crushed. And many of those people later accepted Islam. Rasoolullah Pak sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, one of his arch enemies was Ikrama, the son of Abu Jahl. Abu Jahl, we know, left no stones unturned in troubling and torturing and hurting Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Abu Jahl, he himself left no stone unturned. In fact, on one occasion, he pretended that he is sick. He had dug up a small hole in front of the bed because they used to put the bed outside. So on the ground he had dug up a hole and he had just put some covering over it, some straw. And he knew very well that even though I am the enemy of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or he is my enemy, but being sick he will come to visit me. So Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam will come, then he will fall in this trench. And that will be the ideal opportunity to have him assassinated. But when Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam just approaches, Hazrat Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam tells him, informs him that this is the trick that this person is playing and this is what he is plotting and planning. So Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam turns around. As he is turning around, Abu Jahl jumps. He forgot that he had dug that trench, he falls inside himself. Now what would anyone else have done at such a time? He would have taken a big boulder and thrown it on his head. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam extends his hand to him and pulls him out of the trench. That was the akhlaq of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam towards his enemy who was plotting and planning to assassinate him. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَىٰ خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. The highest standard of character that you can look at, you'll find it in the life of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. So Ikramah bin Abi Jahl, the son of Abu Jahl, he too was an enemy of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. But at the time of Fatah Makkah, when Makkah Sharif was conquered, now they knew that there's no escape. So he disappeared and he boarded the ship. But somehow his wife convinced him to go to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and ask for forgiveness. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, there's a long story, but to cut it short, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam forgave him. He welcomed him and he forgave him. That is the kind of the heart that Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam had. His enemies, we are not talking about friends here, we're talking about enemies who were thirsty for the blood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they are being forgiven. Safwan bin Umayyah, he also was against Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, but afterwards he accepted Islam. When he accepted Islam, so he was sent by Umair bin Wahab to go and assassinate Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam prior to having accepted Islam. But now that he accepted, he pleaded on behalf of his friend. And he said that he's going to jump into the sea and he's going to kill himself if he's not given amnesty. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam forgave him. This was the kind of heart that Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam had. وَلَا تَسْتَوِي الْحَسَنَةُ وَلَا السَّيِّئَةُ إِدْفَعْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says, إِدْفَعْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Repel evil with that which is good. Don't repel evil with evil. If everybody is going to repel evil with evil, then what will increase in the world? Evil will increase. But if the person repels evil with good, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says, then he, between whom and you, there was enmity, hatred, dislike. You did not want to see each other. But because of your repelling that evil with goodness, you will become like bosom friends. كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. Allah Ta'ala will put such love. Unless, of course, the person is a truly and a really arrogant one. But generally, if you are going to repel evil with good, then this is what is going to happen. And this is what Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam practiced upon. And this is what was mentioned in Bukhari Sharif as one of the sifats of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam in one of the hadiths, Qudsi, in which Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says, وَلَا يَسْتَوِي السَّيِّئَةُ بِالسَّيِّئَةِ وَلَكِنْ يَعْفُو وَيَغْفِرُ وَلَا يَدْفَعُ السَّيِّئَةَ بِالسَّيِّئَةِ وَلَكِنْ يَعْفُو وَيَغْفِرُ. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam never warded evil with evil. It is to forgive, overlook. That was Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam's sifat that was mentioned. And we can see it in his life, so apparent, so clear, so conspicuous. Who does not know what Hinda did in the battle of Uhud, wife of Abu Sufyan? Hazrat Hamza radiallahu ta'ala, the dear and beloved uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he is martyred and made shaheed by Wahshi, and that same Wahshi later became Sayyidina Wahshi radiyallahu ta'ala an. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam even forgave him. But the only thing he said, Wahshi, if it's possible for you, then don't come in front of me. In other words, don't sit in front of me. Because when I'm going to look at you, I will think of my uncle. That how you martyred him. Because when Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam saw the body of Hazrat Hamza radiallahu ta'ala with his nose cut, ears cut, his chest split open, his heart removed, his liver removed, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam could not control his tears. Sayyidul Shuhada is Hamza radiallahu ta'ala. And he said, if it had not been for my aunt Safiya, then I would have left your body just like that. I would have left his body just like that. Let the creatures, the birds, insects, whatever it is, eat it up. On the day of Qiyamah, he can rise from the different places. And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam can produce this sacrifice of Hazrat Hamza before Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Nevertheless, so Hinda was the one who had sliced his chest and removed his liver and his heart, and she even chewed it, just to show her hatred for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But after Fateh Makkah, she quietly came and accepted Islam. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam recognized her, but he didn't say anything. Later she came and told Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was no tent that was more detested and hated in my sight than your tent. Today there's no tent that is more beloved in my sight than your tent. Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was nobody that was more hated in my sight than you, and now there's nobody more beloved to me than you. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam's forgiveness. Yet he could have put all of them to the sword. When all of them came in front of him, those who were after his blood, those who had troubled him, those who had tortured him, those who had boycotted and ostracized him for 3 solid years, in Shah ibn Abi Talib. But when he asked them, what do you think, how am I going to deal with you? And when they started praising Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam and his qualities and his sifats of forgiveness and generosity, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam said that today I will tell you exactly the same thing that Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam told to his brothers. La tasriba alaykum al-yawm, yaghfirullahu lakum, wa huwa arhamur rahimin. No revenge today. I don't believe in revenge. All of you are forgiven. Exactly what Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam told to his brothers when they presented themselves before him and asked for forgiveness. So Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, that was one aspect only of his life, forgiveness. To the extremes, we cannot even imagine what a kind of a heart Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam must have had to forgive so much enemies. In Khaybar, one Jewish woman gave poison to Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. The effect of this poison remained on Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam till the day he passed away. However, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, knowing fully well who had given him the poison, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam forgave her. So for his personal self there was no revenge. Whatever retaliation there was, it was for the sake of deen, for the sake of Islam. When there was an attack on the Muslims and Muslims had to repel that attack, at that time Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, for the sake of deen, he may have retaliated. But when it came to personal life, no matter how much he was abused, no matter how much he was cursed, no matter how much he was rejected, but those very people who rejected him and cursed him and tortured him, when they accepted Islam, they were prepared to give their lives for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was due to ignorance that they were not accepting Islam, or it was due to pride that some had not accepted Islam. But those who were ignorant, when they came to know about the beauties of Islam, because they were always prevented that don't go near that person. He's a magician. He's going to cast a spell on you. Don't go near him. That was the trick that they used to use to keep people away from Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. And that has always been in history, that if there are some Allah-Wallahs who are really sincere, who are dedicated, who are making a change in the lives of people, connecting them with Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, taking the people out of the sin and the evil world, then there will be always people who will say, don't go near that person, because he is going to cast a spell on you. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam was called Majnoon, a mad person. He was called a magician. What names they gave to him. But Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam was full of forgiveness, all the time forgiveness. You must have heard the incident of Sumama bin Asal radiyallahu ta'ala an, that when people started entering into the fold of Islam, large numbers, large clans, large tribes started entering into the fold of Islam. But this group, the Bani Hanifa group, whose leader was Sumama bin Asal, they refused, and they were still rebellious, full of rebellion. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam could have had them arrested and put to the sword. But when Sumama was arrested, the leader was arrested, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam had him tied to one of the pillars in Masjid al-Nabawi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That was the prison. Why was he tied to the pillar in the Masjid of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam and not somewhere else? The reason is that these people had an opportunity in the masjid to see what the Muslim was like. The character of the Muslim. Those people whom they thought in our language these days we will call terrorists and fundamentalists and all kinds of names that are given. So in those days also they called the Muslims and the Sahabas terrorists, na'uzu billah. So now Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam wanted to give them an opportunity to see who these people are. Look at their affection, look at their compassion, look at their love, look at their forgiveness, look at their tahajjud, look at their ibadat, look at their salat, look at their zikr, look at their humility. See how they're bowing down before Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, how they stand shoulder to shoulder, where there's no segregation, where there's no apartheid, black, white, old, young, rich, poor, all standing shoulder to shoulder. आ गया ऐन लड़ाई में अगर वक्त नमाज क़िबला रूहों के ज़मीं बोस हुई कौम हिजाज. As soon as the time for namaz came, everybody stood. And not only that they stood shoulder to shoulder, but their hearts were also so clean that they had such love for the person that was standing next to them, whether he was black or he was white, or he was rich or he was poor. But if he was a Muslim, believer in Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, then رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُمْ تَرَاهُمْ رُكَّعًا سُجَّدًا يَبْتَغُونَ فَضْلًا مِنَ اللَّهِ وَرِضْوَانًا. So he wanted them to see this sifats and qualities of the Sahaba Ikram. Hardly any person who was arrested did not accept Islam. Practically everyone who was arrested and tied to some pillar in the masjid of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, or later outside too, but they accepted Islam. Why? Because they saw how the prisoners of war were being treated. The treatment that they were given was such that a person will not even treat his brother like that. It brought them into the fold of Islam. So Sumama bin Asr was one of them. Now he was tied, he was the leader of the tribe, and he was an importer at that time of grains, and he used to supply the people of Makkah Sharif. Now he was arrested. So Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam presented Islam to him. After that he asked him, now what do you expect me to do? He said, if you have me murdered and killed, then that is something that I deserve. I know that I have been at war. So therefore you will be just killing a person who has murdered somebody. If you forgive me, then you will be forgiving a person who will truly appreciate that forgiveness. And if you want compensation, then whatever compensation you want, I am prepared to give it to you. Any amount of money we will give it to you. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam did not say anything and left him. The second day again the same thing. He repeated that if you have me murdered and killed, then that is what I deserve. But if you forgive me, I will truly appreciate. And if you want compensation, then I will give you whatever you want. The third day again the same thing. Then Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam had him released. Now for 3 days he already saw who a Muslim is. What kind of character he has, what kind of akhlaq he has. As soon as he was released, he went to one nearby garden, he took a bath, shower, and he came back. And he accepted Islam. And now within just those 3 days, now what he says that, Ya Rasoolullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, there was no face that was more hated in my sight than your face. And now there's no face that is more beloved to me than your face. Ya Rasoolullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, there was no city that was more hated in my sight than your city, the city of Medina Sharif. And now there's no city that is more beloved to me than the city of Medina Sharif. Allah Ta'ala make it easy for all of us to pass away and die in Medina Sharif and to live our lives there. Nevertheless, he said, no city is more beloved to me now than the city of Medina Sharif. I say, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, there was no religion that was more hated in my sight than the religion of Islam. But now, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, there is no religion that is more appealing to me, more pleasing to me, more dear to me than the deen of Islam. Look at the changes that came in their lives with that forgiveness of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. Full of forgiveness. There was no question of revenge. For personal self, there was no question of revenge. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam said, my Lord, my Rabb, Allah has ordered me that I forgive the one who does injustice to me, that I tie the bonds with family members who cut off the bond with me, and that I even give to those who deprive me. I have explained this many times, that Islam is a perfectly balanced religion. There's no extremes, that it is permissible to take revenge to that extent that you have been harmed. But Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam was setting the example of the highest level. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَىٰ خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. Allah Ta'ala had declared him to me that. So Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, even in the battle of Uhud, but before we go to the battle of Uhud, this Umama, when he was afterwards told, after accepting Islam, so he stopped the grains going to Makkah Sharif. He said, let them starve, let them die. I'm not going to supply them. So those people who were enemies of Rasoolullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, now they are begging and pleading to Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam that please allow this person who has accepted Islam to now give us some grains, otherwise we will die this side. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam told Umama, don't stop their grain, let it go, supply them. So this image that has been created, that the Muslim is nothing but a warrior, a terrorist, he just wants to kill, he wants to murder, he wants to shoot, he wants to bomb, he wants to destroy. There is nothing constructive in his life. Unfortunately, some of us are guilty of having created that image. In our personal lives, in our individual lives, in our family relationships, in the society that we live, national and international level, we agree that quite a bit of it is nothing but media propaganda, that they create this kind of impression. So many bombings and so much of blasts that take place and so much of destruction that takes place, the enemies who do it themselves, and afterwards give the picture that it is the Muslims who have committed this crime and that crime. That is agreed, it is accepted, that to a large degree it is the media. But if we have to really look at the lives of Muslims around the globe and look at our own lives, that how much of Islam have we projected in our lives. We just cannot forgive even our friends who have caused us some bit of harm. We can't forgive them. We won't talk with them lifelong. We can't forgive our parents these days. People are not talking with their parents. I can't forgive him. I asked him for a car and he didn't give me a car. One girl is not talking to her father. Why? Because she got her license, and after getting the license she asked the father for a car. The father refused, so she had to take a walk and go to the post office. So now she says, I had my license and my father and he didn't give me a car. So I'm not going to talk to him. A university student. I wrote to her that your father did not give you the car because he was afraid. These days there's a lot of hijackings, there's a lot of killings, murders. And you are a young girl, you're driving, somebody could have hijacked you. That is why he was afraid of that. That's why he didn't give you the car. So she replied, no, that was not the reason. He's afraid of his car being hijacked, not me. He's not worried about me, he's worried about his car. That's the kind of love my father has for me. So we can't forgive our fathers, we can't forgive our mothers. People are not forgiving their wives. People are not forgiving their neighbors and family members. Then where are we going to forgive enemies? And here Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam is forgiving his enemies, those who were thirsty for his blood. May Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala also give us the tawfiq to bring into our lives the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We must project Islam in our lives. We must be large-hearted, we must be forgiving, and we must believe that Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala will give us respect in that forgiveness. What will we get by exacting revenge? May Allah Ta'ala give me also, give you and the whole ummah the tawfiq of making amal and setting example. May Allah remove the difficulties, hardships and problems of the entire ummah and entire mankind. May Allah bless the entire mankind with hidayat and make them worthy of entry into Jannat. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.